Good morning, everybody. I'm not sure if you can hear me. We're letting everybody into the lobby and then we'll start the event. Give us a few more minutes. Estelle, if you can just please let me know when I can start.
Yes, you can.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining this virtual mission, which is basically Ukraine 2 years on. My name is Dominique Hyde. I'm the Director of External Relations at UNHCR, and we're so pleased you were able to join us today. We're welcoming over 150 representatives from the private sector and government, as well as many UNHCR colleagues in a number of locations worldwide. And we are so honored that you actually took the time to join this virtual mission today. From the first days of this war, what we saw was that both private sector partners, donors, and government, from foundations to philanthropy, showed an incredible, unprecedented support to our response, to UNHCR's response, and such an outpouring of solidarity with the people who were impacted by the devastating war. So just first and foremost, thank you to all of you. I'm hoping that in the next hours, you also see and hear from my colleagues the impact your support, your contributions, your solidarity has had on so many lives. We're entering the third year of the war. Almost 15 million people, or 40% of the population of Ukraine, are in need of humanitarian assistance. I mean, that it's just extraordinary. And therefore, we're still asking for support. And this support is not just needed, it's urgently needed to help the millions I just mentioned in the war affected areas and others to stay safe, to remain resilient, and to cover their basic needs. Most importantly, that these basic needs be covered in dignity. So we're hoping that with this virtual meeting today, that we're going to be providing you in some way a window to what's really happening on the ground. It's going to get you a glimpse of what the reality is in terms of UNHCR's work and the results that we're achieving, and the impact on the lives of Ukrainians, both inside the country and at least this time will be inside the country. It's, we often hear in international forums, in other places I speak to, I often hear that that people don't want to hear words anymore. They want to see action. So I'm really hoping that also through the next hours, you'll be able to see this by connecting to the lives of our colleagues in Kharkiv, which is in eastern Ukraine, and in Vincia in western Ukraine. And not just hearing from my colleagues, but also hearing from Ukrainians who have been displaced themselves and their voices, to take stock of our achievements, but also to see all of the work that still needs to be done, and for you to understand with us the unprecedented nature of this situation. You are following the news. Attacks are continuing. The humanitarian needs, therefore, are still needed. We're completely aware that what we've seen, which is basically that humanitarian funding has been decreasing, but it is as needed as it was in the first days to respond to the urgent humanitarian needs especially in the frontline regions, and also to support people who've been forced to flee to seek safety inside the country, but also outside. I would like to maybe take a few minutes now before I hand over to my colleagues in Ukraine to start with a moment of immersion into Ukraine's reality by showing a short video of our High Commissioner Filippo Grandi, who was just there, I think, almost 10 days ago. And I'll hand over the floor to Carolina Lindum-Billing, who's our representative in Ukraine, and who will speak to you much more about the reality and the work that her and her team have been doing. So first of all, the short video. Thank you again for taking the time to join us, and I'll now pass the floor to Carolina. Carolina, over to you.
Thank you very much, Dominique, and also from my side to all of you, thank you so much for making the time to join us on this virtual field mission. I wish you could all be here in person, and we would love to take you around in person to the places that we will visit today. But I know it's challenging for many for the security risks and reasons. But just to emphasize that we are happy to receive visits to Ukraine and to bring you to meet directly with the people we are here to support, thanks to your generous support. And what I want to, as our High Commissioner said in the video, and Dominique emphasized, 2 years on, soon entering the 3rd year of Russia's full-scale invasion, the needs are not reducing, but rather increasing, even though the world's attention and focus on Ukraine, unfortunately, has significantly reduced compared to how it was in 2022. Of course, this was, I guess, expected. It happens with time and also with so many other crises around the world that need our collective support. But what we really want to emphasize now, as we're reaching this very sad 2-year mark, is that for the people of Ukraine, the crisis is as sharp and urgent every single day. And the support that you are providing to the people is critically needed. And, I was last week, I was on this mission with the High Commissioner 10 days ago, but I was also back traveling around in the east and south of the country, frontline areas last week. And, one of the couples I met at Protection Service Center that our Ukrainian partner Right to Protection is managing was a couple, Svetlana and Volodymyr, who had fled from Bakhmut, and which, as you know, is now occupied and completely destroyed. And they're living in a collective center in Dnipro and trying to figure out, where to go from here with their lives. And when we asked, how can we best support you, in addition to the support they had already received from UNHCR, which was cash assistance and free legal aid, they said, well, cash assistance is very important because we fled without anything. Psychosocial support is critically important because it's traumatizing to be invaded. But they said what's most important of all is to know that we're not alone, that you are with us. And I think this is really the resounding message that we are now almost 2 years on, hearing from everyone, because people see and that there is much less attention on Ukraine compared to in 2022 and even in 2023. But for them, the crisis is as urgent every day, and they are very worried that that solidarity will disappear and support will disappear at a time when, again, the needs are growing, and they are growing because the war is continuing every single day with high intensity, and not only along the frontline areas in the east and the south of the country, but also through attacks against urban centers and cities like Kharkiv, which is every single day being attacked by missiles and drones. Yesterday, Lviv in the west was hit by a missile. One of our colleagues, all his windows and the door of the apartment blew out and were destroyed. Thankfully, not injured. And in Kiev, we had a big attack here last week that killed 7 people and damaged many homes and injured dozens of people. So you have that new victims of attacks at the same time as we have around 4 million Ukrainians who are displaced within the country and whose lives are kind of on hold in limbo, because many have not yet been able to find a job in the place that they had fled to. Some are living in collective centers because they can't afford to rent an apartment or haven't been able to find a host family to move into, and feeling that prolonged impact of the war. And at the same time, you have people who want to move back into their own houses or apartments, but can't afford to repair the roofs and the windows and the doors. So Ukraine is really a country where you have ongoing brutal war, prolonged impact of the war, and early recovery all happening at the same time, and needs to be supported, at the same time. And that's where the support you are providing through our programs in protection, in emergency shelter housing, and in cash and in-kind assistance helps both address physical needs, the physical need to pay rent or buy hygiene items and food and so on in displacement, or the physical need to repair your house so you can move back into that. But it also provides help, that psychosocial kind of comfort that you're not alone. And it's really a complement to psychosocial support programs that are being organized by many different actors in Ukraine, including UNHCR and our partners. But that knowledge that you're not forgotten is maybe the most important of all, and I want to stress that. What is also very clear at this time is that the local authorities and regional authorities whom we work with very closely, we have a memorandum of understanding with 18 so-called oblast administrations signed with the governors. They are actually expecting more support from us now compared to in 2022, because in 2022 the needs were massive, but there was also massive support from different actors, private sector not least, volunteer groups and so on. But with time, that support has reduced at the same time as they have less resources coming to the regions, because all tax revenues are now going to the war effort, to the military, to the army, to protect the territory of Ukraine. So they who have to kind of respond to their constituents, which in a region like Kharkiv includes 500,000 internally displaced people, plus people every day being evacuated from frontline areas like Kupiansk, and people who are returning to areas that were damaged during the first year of the war. They are not able to respond to all these needs and then turn to us for more assistance to help them support the people they are there to, their constituents. So we are feeling increasing pressure as well to support them, and that's where your continued funding and partnership is really critical. I also want to mention yesterday there was a very interesting report published, the third Rapid Disaster and Needs Assessment, RDNA, that's conducted by the government of Ukraine, the World Bank, the European Union, and the United Nations. And it found again that the needs in the area of recovery and reconstruction have continued to increase over the past year. It now amounts to $486 billion in recovery and reconstruction. I mean, it's really daunting. And of course, this is over, a decade that this is needed. For just in 2024, the report estimates that $15 billion will be needed in that kind of fast recovery. And there, the programs that we are implementing, for example, house repairs, we have now supported almost 28,000 families to repair damaged houses so they can move out of displacement back into their own homes or remain in their own homes. That contributes to that recovery of destroyed homes, which the RDNA 3 found is 2 million houses have been damaged or destroyed since the start of the full-scale invasion. So that, together with the immediate emergency response that we do after attacks, like in Lviv yesterday, Kharkiv every single day, and to frontline areas, are key priorities, together with supporting the most vulnerable of the internally displaced, elderly, people with disabilities, widows with several children who are often unable to find accommodation of their own and a job in their new location. So just to conclude with again saying a huge thank you for the support you are providing in so many different ways, for the partnership, and to reassure you that the people of Ukraine really feel that and count on it to continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carolina, and huge thanks also to Dominique for welcoming and opening this session. I'll just introduce myself quickly. My name is Alessia Pignatti. I'm the reporting officer here in Kiev, and I'll be moderating the rest of today's virtual mission. So this is just a very quick overview of some of the key figures to put the situation into context. But you've heard some of these from Dominique and Carolina. So there's around 4 million people internally displaced inside Ukraine, and 14.6 million people in need of humanitarian assistance. In 2023, UNHCR, together with its partners, reached over 2.6 million people with different types of humanitarian assistance and protection services. And this year, in 2024, we are hoping to reach 2.7 million people with different forms of assistance and services. This is a glimpse of where you are going today on this virtual mission, and we are so glad that you could join us. So thank you again for making the time. You have just heard some opening remarks by our representative here in Kiev, Carolina Lindom-Billing, and shortly we will go live to Kharkiv in eastern Ukraine, where my colleagues Victoria and Taras will brief us on the emergency response. Then we were coming briefly back to Kiev, where I'll show you a short video of some of the recovery efforts that are ongoing as part of our shelter program. And finally, we will go live to Vinnytsia, which, as you can see in the map, is in the center of Ukraine. And my colleagues Federico and Vladlena will give an overview of our support to people who remain displaced by the war. And just a very quick note before we go ahead, during the live segments in Kharkiv and Vinnytsia, I will be asking some questions that were shared with us in advance. Given the limited amount of time we have today and the very challenging security situation for our colleagues on the ground, we won't be able to do like a live Q&A today. And this is really because we want to maximize the amount of time we have to show you the situation on the ground, but also to speak to people in the field. However, if you have any questions after today's virtual mission, please don't hesitate to reach out to your focal point, and we will be more than happy to follow up. So our first live location is to Kharkiv city in eastern Ukraine. As Karolina said, and as you've probably seen in the news, it has come under repeated attack in recent days and weeks. We will be speaking with my colleagues Victoria and Taras, who are on the ground together with Liana from our local NGO partner Proliska, to show you the important emergency assistance being provided following these relentless attacks on civilian homes and infrastructure. So I will ask Victoria if you can turn on your camera so that we can, without further ado, go live to Kharkiv. Hi, Victoria.
Colleagues, I hope you can see and hear me loud and clear.
Can you hear her well? Yeah. I think if you can put your microphone a bit closer to your mouth, maybe.
And now, can you hear
Yeah,
me?
I think that's better. Yes. Great, Victoria. We can see you well. I mean, would you start by telling us where you're standing right now and give us some background on the general situation in Kharkiv since the beginning of the full-scale war? Over to you.
Thank you. Sure. So today I'm in the city of Kharkiv, and since the beginning of the full-scale invasion in February 2022, this city has been under constant bombardment and shelling, using different types of weapons as air bomb, missile strikes, artillery shelling, which caused dire humanitarian needs and significant destructions to civilian infrastructure. This city, it has been like the second largest city of Ukraine, and early morning at 4 a.m. On the 24th of February 2022, this city took a fierce hit, and just within 24 hours, Russian armed forces, they reached the northern part of the city, its suburbs, which is called Northern Saltivka. So this is a place where I am today. This used to be the biggest residential area of the whole country. And you can imagine that before the beginning of the escalation of the war in February 2022, over 2 million people lived in the city. And of course, after the February, they began evacuating from the city, trying to find a safer place. And actually, by March 2022, only 300,000 people stayed in the city, and half of them, they spent their days just in underground at the metro stations. But despite the security situation, Kharkiv began receiving people from neighboring regions like Kharkivska and Donetsk Oblast, which are under huge hostilities, and even the residents of the city in 2023, they began coming back to the city with high hopes. For now, over 1 and 3 million people, they are living in the city. Alessa, sorry, you're muted.
Thank you. Sorry, bear with us as we do this live. So we know that UNHCR has a sub office in Dnipro, and just recently we opened a field unit in Kharkiv, where you are now. Could you give us an overview of UNHCR's activities and emergency response?
Sure. So since February 2022, UNHCR, together with its partners and in close cooperation with oblast and authorities and local authorities, we are trying to provide quick response and support war affected people and displaced people, providing them essential items like blankets, mattresses, solar lamps, sleeping bags, as well as construction materials to help them to cover their damaged property. Also psychological support, it is very important because very often people experience trauma after kind of missile attacks, and the psychologists of our partners, they can provide this essential support. Also legal counseling and support with the restoration of lost documentation, which is mostly needed for different types of compensation for damaged properties or receiving different types of social allowances from the state, as well as case management services, different referrals to other social institutions to receive assistance needed. And in close cooperation with the authorities, and together with our partners, we are trying to support people and to support their intentions to come back to their homes and to rebuild their homes. And Kharkiv, it's among top 5 locations to return to, and to have a safe home. This is one of key enablers for this, and we are prioritizing such kind of programs as of repair of damaged houses and apartments by providing construction materials, install windows replacement. We will also continue our programs, protection programs, cash assistance, as well as refurbishment of the collective sites where now vulnerable displaced people are living.
Thank you so much, Victoria, for taking the time to give us this briefing. If there's is there anything else you would like to share, or should we move to Taras, who is nearby? I understand.
What I can add to that, what you can see just behind me, so it happened just like on the 23rd of January, so it's like one of the recent strike, but unfortunately, as it was mentioned, Kharkiv is under shelling every day, and now we can pass the floor to Taras, who is at the location where the missile happened just a few days ago.
Thank you so much, Victoria. So now we're going to Taras, who is also in Kharkiv city, from the site of a recent missile attack, and he's there with Liana, who is the head of office of our local NGO partner Perliska. So over to you, Taras, to tell us about where you're standing and give a bit of an introduction of the work of our partner Perliska. Over to you.
Good day, colleagues. Can you hear me loud and clear? So currently I'm staying at the site of the recent missile attack. So just a quick overview before we start with our partners. So the several large-scale fires were reported as a result of the strike that happened 9th of February, just exactly 1 week ago, including a strike on an oil depot that caused the fuel spills and the burning of the private houses. The fire was estimated to be approximately 3,700 square meters. The spilled fuel mixed with the snow and spread across the street directly to the residential area. The 15 houses were completely destroyed by the fire. In one of the private houses, the family of 5 lived: the husband, the wife, and 3 little children. unfortunately died. They simply couldn't escape because of this fire. They were trapped it because usually during the air alert, family hid in the basement, but this time the flame burst into the yard. Two cars and the fire were burning around the houses, and they couldn't escape. The youngest baby was only 10 months old. Now I'm going to switch the camera to show you the consequences, if you please. Going to walk a bit with you to show you. I guess no comments are unnecessary. As you can see, the workers are currently trying to remove this surface of the ground to reduce the harmful impact of the fuel. Here is the house where the family lived. As you can see, people bring the flowers and the toys to commemorate those who unfortunately died during this severe attack. Now let me set up the camera so I can show you our partner. So here is me, Lana, the head of Kharkiv Proliska office. So Lana, could you please tell us what exactly happened that night? Also I will translate at the same time. Alyssa, could you please turn on the Lana's microphone, if possible?
Hi, Taras. We'll look into that. Otherwise, for now, maybe you can use your microphone.
Yeah, sure. Let's just try. Отже, Ляна, можете ви, будь ласка, повідомити, що сталося тої ночі?
Wait, Taras, sorry, we can't hear her at all. Yeah.
Let me translate. So on the 9th of February, the Nemyshlansky district in the Kharkiv were attacked by Shahed, by drones. Can you hear us?
We can hear you, Taras, but we can't hear Lana.
Lana.
Maybe if she has her own headset to join, maybe that would be better. If not, maybe
yeah, but
you can just translate.
He joined the interview, but unfortunately he can't turn on her microphone. She's forbidden to do that. So, okay. So I will translate just step by step. Okay.
Okay, we'll try to sort it out. But for now, please go ahead. Thank you.
So as I already said, the strike hit the oil depot that close to the residential area. and if several factors aggravated the consequences because of the this residential area is a bit down the hill, and the weather um, also makes it a bit worse because of the snow, and the oil just spread down the street even faster because of that. Also, this was that was a deep night, and the majority of the people already resting in their homes. So during just a few minutes, the 15 houses were already burning. Fortunately, 57 people were lucky to escape, and they were resettled with close cooperation with the local authorities. Unfortunately, two families were died. Mhm. Yeah, and again, she repeated that the melting snow increased the speed of this fuel spilling down the street. And then the works, the duration of the rescuing works was approximately until the 10 of a.m. next day, so the whole night, during the whole night. So it was a massive fire, and then the smoke that affects the breathing. So Proleska wasn't been able to attend the exact place, so just close to this location. So the Proleska arrived here just in the midnight to help people who were affected by this attack. So despite the 15 destroyed houses, there were 4 damaged houses as well. So the most important support that has been provided is psychological for this particular occasion. Many people were just in a state of shock. So the Proleska team tried to convince people to step back out of the fire and not to be in this dangerous situation. Okay. So over to you, Alicia.
Thanks, Taras. Just a suggestion, maybe if you unplug your headset, maybe we will be able to
Okay.
hear both of you.
Okay. We will try.
Thanks.
Can you hear us both?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Maybe let's try like this.
Okay.
Okay, so thanks for bearing with us with these small technical glitches, and thank you to both you, Taras and Liana, for the very important work that you're doing on the ground. Can you maybe tell us a bit more about what have been the main challenges in responding to the needs in Kharkiv?
Отже, які найважливіші, найскладніші труднощі ви стикаєтеся, з якими труднощами в Харкові?
Кожне реагування, воно відрізняється. Саме, наприклад, ця вулиця і це екстрене реагування, воно відрізняється від інших.
So generally all the cases are different. So in this particular situation, the most important was the psychological support. Я б сказав, що психологічна підтримка була.
Так, саме тут була потрібна, перш за все, психологічна підтримка, але, наприклад, наступного дня у нас тут дорога, на жаль, теж була зруйнована, і наші автівки, наприклад, не могли проїхати і прямо до будинків доставити будівельні матеріали.
And sometimes it is difficult to reach the affected area to help people to deliver the shelter materials, to reconstruction materials. So this is one of the challenges as well.
Начебто це дорога. Всього лиш не таке складна труднощ, але щоб людям спуститися, наприклад, отримати допомогу, їм приходиться долати дуже велику відстань, щоб донести матеріали. Ми також їм, звичайно, допомагаємо, але це складно.
Yeah, because we sometimes Proliska cannot approach closely to the affected area. People have to to make this distance by walk to take these materials and then to get back to their houses.
Також ми теж люди і завжди, на жаль, бачимо горе.
So when we, unfortunately, one of the main challenges is to to feel yourself more or less calm, because you see those people, those woe, though they are sorrow. So it is difficult to endure sometimes for Proliska workers as well. So you have to deal with people who are affected by this awful situation.
Іноді психологічно складно і нам працювати, особливо на тих місцях обстрілу, де загинули діти або цілі родини.
Yeah, even for Proliska team, it is difficult to endure this situation, because you see the people died and their woe and sorrow. So yeah, this is one of the challenges.
Thanks. And I mean, you are clearly working under incredibly difficult circumstances, and I know you have seen many heartbreaking scenes, but I imagine you've also encountered some stories that give you a bit of hope. I don't know if Liana wants to maybe share with us some moments from her time working with Proliska in Kharkiv. Over to you.
Яна, ви бачили дійсно багато дуже жахливих ситуацій, але що дає вам надію? От що спонукає вас тут відчувати себе все-таки впевненою, що все буде добре?
Дуже важлива насамперед це і ваша підтримка, і те, що ви нас підтримуєте. Це дуже дійсно насправді надихає, тому що ми розуміємо, що у нас завдяки вам є чим допомогти людям. Є психологи, є СК-набори, непродовольчі товари.
So the most important that Lana feels the support of you, like us as the UNHCR and partners and donors who enable this assistance. So to provide to people to assist people and I mean, further, if it is needed, it will be needed. So, yeah, it is really extremely important to feel your support for her.
And maybe just a last question from my side. As we've been saying, we're now approaching 2 years since the full-scale invasion. Do you feel that now you are getting less international attention, or what also are people saying that you're providing the assistance to in these emergency situations? What is the feeling and what are they telling you?
Вже зараз вже майже добігає кінця другий рік війни. Чи відчуваєте, що увага і допомога зменшилася протягом останніх часів, протягом останнього часу? І чи кажуть про це щось люди? Так, ну, зокрема.
На жаль, так, відчуваємо. Я в Харкові з 14 марта 2022 року. І я бачила, як допомагали і реагували інші спільноти. Тобто було і багато волонтерів, і багато психологів, і багато допомоги. Зараз, на жаль, вона зменшується. Це відчувають і люди. Можливо, вони хочуть, щоб було не так повільно надавалась допомога, що це стосується особливо грошової допомоги. Це те, з чим звертаються до нас люди. Загалом це під час екстреного реагування.
Okay. Alas, Lana can see that in general, the attention and the support slightly reduced during the last time, and people also emphasize this, that when the war just has started, there were plenty of volunteers, plenty of humanitarian actors, and plenty of support, like emergency support. So now, yeah, the generally it is diminished. And it is important to feel this support in the future.
Іноді буває декілька виїздів і реагування на екстрені виклики. Проліска в Харкові єдина з організацій, яка може виїжджати вночі на обстріли.
So yeah, and Proliska is is the only one humanitarian actor that can go to the site of the shellings at night.
У інших, на жаль, організацій такої можливості немає.
Other organizations don't have such opportunity, unfortunately.
І саме вони це пов'язують з тим, що у них немає ресурсу, чим допомагати людям.
And they said that there is lack of resources, unfortunately. Yeah.
В 22-му році такого питання, мені здається, не виникало взагалі.
There were not such cases in 2022, unfortunately. So yeah, over to you, Alicia.
Thank you so much, Taras and Liana. I don't know, are there any final messages or points you would like to share, or otherwise we can move on to the next next location?
From my side, I know Lana, I know the Proliska, I appreciate their work so much, and they are extremely committed and devoted to their to what they do, and I'm sure we will carry on, and we expect that UNHCR and partners will support as well, Ukrainian people as well. It is extremely important. Thank you. This is a final message from my side.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Taras and Liana, for taking the time today. We really appreciate it, and to show the extremely difficult circumstances that you're working on a daily basis in Kharkiv in the east. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So now we are going to come back to Kiev, just outside of Kiev, actually, for a short video that we would like to show you that was filmed in Borodyanka, which is just outside the capital city of Kiev. And this is an area that was heavily affected at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, so in February, March 2022. And this is where, as one of the priorities, UNHCR is supporting families who have returned to their communities wherever possible through durable repairs of homes. So since February 2022, the beginning of the full-scale invasion, UNHCR has helped repair over 27,500 homes, including many around Kiev and in the north. And these repairs can vary from smaller repairs in specific areas, such as fixing the roof, changing windows and doors, adding insulation to protect from the cold, and it can also include much more substantial, heavy, and extensive repair works on houses, depending on their condition. And all of this is in order to ensure that homes are inhabitable and can be kept warm also during the extremely cold winter months that we have here in Ukraine. So in the video, my colleague Serhiy will give a bit of an overview, and then we will meet Olena, whose home in Borodyanka was completely destroyed, and rebuilding her home will take time. But in the meantime, we were able to provide Olena with a prefabricated house, or what we call a core home, which was installed on her land, allowing her to return to her home and live in her community. So now we move to our second live field visit, and we are going to Vinnytsia, which is in the central part of Ukraine. And I'll just briefly introduce my colleagues, Federico, who is the head of our sub-office in Vinnytsia, and Vladlena, who is a field associate also in our sub-office in Vinnytsia. And we're going to go live to a school dormitory, which is currently acting as a temporary collective center for people who have been displaced by the war. So they will give us an overview of the situation there and the type of support that UNHCR, together with its partners, are providing to people who remain displaced and may be unable to return home for a variety of reasons. We will also speak with Mrs. Svetlana, who was displaced together with her husband from the Donetsk region of eastern Ukraine and has kindly agreed to share her impressions with us today. So over to Federico.
Hear me well?
We can see you. Maybe just check if we can hear you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes. Over to you. Thank you.
Loud and clear? Okay, great. Good morning or good afternoon to everybody. My name is Federico. I'm the head of office here in Vinica. So just as a point of reference, we're around 700 kilometers west of Kharkiv, where my colleague Victoria was just connected from. This is considered center of Ukraine. And on the south, we're close to the border with Moldova, just as a point of reference. So right after the full-scale invasion, around 500,000 people passed in transit through Vinica, going to other countries in Europe or other parts of Ukraine. Now, as we move into the third year, more than 150,000 displaced people, mostly from the east, like places like Kharkiv, are now permanently settled here. So that's around 10% of the total population. The majority of these more than 150,000 are living in private accommodations, which UNHCR and partners are supporting. But a smaller percent, around 3,000 people in total, are living in what we're calling collective centers, which are basically shelters where people can live temporarily and access different services and protection. These 3,000 in the case of Vinica, but they're all over the country, tend to be the most vulnerable people. So elderly, people with disabilities, single household mothers, etc. Now, as you can imagine, and naturally, most of the news coming out of Ukraine is from the east, right? It's and a lot on what we just showed at the beginning of the session. And less is coming from areas like the West and the center. It's very important that these stories are also told and that the information from places like Vinica also reach an international audience like yourselves and international donors like yourselves. UNHCR set up its office here in 2022, shortly after the full-scale invasion. Naturally, the work at the beginning was very humanitarian focused, setting up collective centers like this one we see here, providing non-food items, legal aid, psychosocial support, like Carolina and Victoria were mentioning earlier. But now, gradually, we're also supporting those people who are in private accommodations with housing programs, access to employment, access to trainings and education, access to community integration as well. So that's just an overview a bit of the situation, but also of UNHCR's work here. You'll hear much more from my colleague now in a few minutes, but please, in the meanwhile, accompany me inside so you can see the entrance of the collective center. Thank you. So, Alessia, can you just confirm you can still hear me well?
Yes, we lost you.
Most have been living here since early 2022. Okay.
Sorry, Federico. We lost you for a second. I think you should just start from the beginning, from when you walked inside.
Okay, great. Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks. So yeah, so I'll repeat. So this is the entrance of the collective center. It's also a dormitory for students. So some of the people you saw walking in may be IDPs, or others might be students. There's 100 IDPs living here right now. Most of them have been here for 2 years or almost 2 years. Because, as I was saying, they tend to be the most vulnerable, so leaving the collective centers is very difficult. UNHCR has been supporting this center since 2022, first with the setup, with items, with humanitarian aid, with repairs, of the rooms, of common spaces, and with other services like legal aid and psychosocial support. So thank you for listening to us here. I'm gonna hand it over to my colleague Vladimir, so you can speak with Svetlana, an IDP from the East, and who will share her story with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Federico. So Vladlena, I know you're in the room next door. Maybe you can connect now and turn on your camera. Perfect.
Hello, can you? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you, and very glad to see you and Mrs. Svetlana. So over to you.
Hello, everyone. We are in the library, which has been equipped and refurbished with the UNHCR support. This library is in the collective center, where Federico was just showing you around. And with me today is Mrs. Svetlana. She was displaced from a small city in Donetsk Oblast. This is in the east of Ukraine. And she lives with her husband who has the disability. So both of them are retired, but Mrs. Svetlana looks after her husband, and the management of this collective site has allocated them a room on the first floor of the building so as to facilitate the access. I'm going to ask Mrs. Svetlana about her experience, and the first question I'm going to ask her is about the biggest challenge throughout her journey. Отже, пані Світлано, що було найскладнішим за цей період вашого вимушеного переселення?
Ну, наскладнейшим я не могу ничего такого сказать. Да, первое время, когда мы приехали, ехали с двумя ложками, вилками и всего, не возьмешь из дому. Это было наскладнейшее. А потом, когда начали нам помогать, давать, что-то купили, тогда уже...
So there were really many challenges on our journey, and but probably the most difficult part was at the very beginning when we had to fled our house. It was really, basic stuff, all that we could grab. So when we moved to a new place here, we really had nothing. So we had to buy and ask for, from the very beginning. So my question too would be about the types of assistance and services that were provided to Mrs. Svetlana and how they helped her in her daily life. Отже, яку допомогу ви отримували і як ця допомога допомогла вам в повсякденному житті?
Ну, допомога была от ООН получили, от Паулиска получали. Постельное, посуду. В училище нам тут давали моющее и одеяло, помощь большая. Церквы давали нам помощь. Пока.
So we really appreciate all the assistance that we received during our displacement period. We really appreciate the cash assistance provided by the UN, also the NFIs, non-food items provided by UNHCR partner Poliska, and also a number of other humanitarian actors operating here in the Donetsk region. Okay, my next question would be about her opinion on the assistance which is needed mostly by the internally displaced people. Пані Світлано, як ви вважаєте, якої допомоги найбільш потребують внутрішньо переміщені особи?
Ну, как сказать? Однозначно не скажешь, у каждого свое. Кому-то денежки нужны, кому-то жилье надо. Но это мы понимаем, что это не может быть, как нам хочется. Отношения, слава богу, мы и этому очень довольны. нас не обижают, что мы тут не унижены никак, нас слышат, нас поддерживают. Поэтому мы и этому вдячны.
Really, many people have many needs, and of course, the most acute of them are cash assistance and housing, finding alternative housing solutions, probably. But Mrs. Svetlana would like to really appreciate the matter of attitude that they face on their daily life. They are treated with respect and with dignity, and this is what matters for her probably the most. Next question would be about their plans if they are going to return home one day. Пані Світлано, чи збираєтесь ви повертатися додому?
Ну, повертаться нам некуда. Мы еще не знаем, какая там будет обстановка. Именно сейчас ни света, ни газа, ни воды. Еще с марта месяца, как началась война, там ни воды нет, ни газа. Воду нам возили, техническую такую покупали, пищевую. Люди очень страдают. И света по несколько месяцев нет. Сейчас это пока нет. Нет, даже нам страшно подумати. Куди? Нікуди.
А взагалі колись, думаєте, тут лишатися чи повертатися?
Если не тут, ближе к нам, может, Днепропетровская область, может, где-то поближе. Если как-то получится что-то, можем и здесь.
Unfortunately, the place where we came from is really not suitable for life anymore. They don't have any electricity, no gas, no water. The living there is really unbearable, so I don't believe we would ever return there. However, we still consider to move closer to the place where we came from, maybe to Dniprop's region or somewhere else, or maybe we would live here in Vinnytsia region.
Потому что всю жизнь не будем же в общежитии жить.
Because we are not going to stay in the collective center till the end of our life, of course.
Очень тяжело с жильем.
The problem of housing is really probably the most acute one. Okay, Alessia, do you maybe have any questions to Mrs. Svetlana?
Well, first of all, just a big thanks if you could really thank her for agreeing to speak to all of us today. We really appreciate it, and I know it's not always easy for people to talk about their experiences in this situation. I know she said that she fled her home with her husband, who has a disability. I imagine that must have been an even more difficult. I mean, leaving your home is already a very difficult situation to be in when you're forced to flee because of a war. But I think in her case, it might have been even more difficult because of this. If she feels comfortable talking about some of the challenges they may have encountered related to this.
По-перше, дуже дякуємо за те, що зголосилися сьогодні поговорити з нами і розказати свою історію людям з цілком. Ми розуміємо, що це досить важко, і дякуємо за вашу відвертість. Ми розуміємо, що для будь-якої людини це вимушене переселення, і те, що ви були змушені покинути свою домівку, це дуже важко, дуже тяжко. Але в вашому випадку ваш чоловік, так, який страждає від певного захворювання, і йому важко пересуватися. І ми розуміємо, що це і син, так, і ми розуміємо, що це навіть ускладнює ситуацію ще в кілька разів. Тому, можливо, ви, якщо у вас, ви можете розказати про це трошки, як це ускладнено.
Муж у меня на шахте работал, случилось несчастье там в шахте, и вот таз вагонами придавило, он стал инвалидом. По молодости это еще не так ощущалось, в годах это уже слаживается в ходьбе. Сын тоже на шахте. Шахту закрыли, как раз война у нас уже в 2014 году началась. Он еще немножко поработал и стал инвалидом тоже, тазобедренный сустав.
My husband and my son, they both were miners. They worked in the coal mine, and both had suffered an accident in the work accident. So, and that led to their disability, permanent disabilities. So both of them have disabilities because of their work.
Ну, сыну предлагали еще в каком 15 или 16 году сделать операцию. Но это, мы узнавали, это стоит 100 тысяч. Это для нас баснословная цена. Мы этого никогда не сделаем.
8 years ago, my son, the doctor suggested surgery to my son, but it costs around 100,000 hryvnias, and which is absolutely fantastic amount for us.
А мужу никто ничего не предлагал, просто
And
на
unfortunately,
таблетках живем, да и
for my husband, the doctor suggested no way out. So he just needs to take his medicines till the end of the
ну, тем более у него
life.
запыление, ему удаляли
Мгм.
желчные,
Мгм.
и его еле вывели с этого, он просто боится. Он уже не ляжет под нож.
His condition is also complicated with the, with the
Narcosis.
lungs problem because of, again, his work in the mine.
Thanks, Svetlana and Vladlena. I mean, I know you explained this to her already, but as you know, we have many, donors and partners from the private sector online today. I just want to ask if there's kind of any message she wants to share using this platform. We've been talking a lot about how, 2 years on, we feel that many of the people we're talking to here in Ukraine feel that international attention is moving on. But I think it would be great to hear directly from her if she would like to share any messages, anything at all, really, given the people that we have online today. Over.
Сьогодні ми онлайн, і нас з вами бачать дуже багато донорів, різних представників організацій і бізнесу. І ви ж вже знаєте, люди кажуть, що 2 роки війни повномасштабної і фокус міжнародної допомоги, він трошки зміщується до інших конфліктів. І люди кажуть, що зменшується обсяг підтримки міжнародної, якою отримує Україна. Як з вашої точки зору, чи наскільки ви це відчуваєте, і наскільки, і що ви думаєте взагалі з цього приводу? Чи можливо ви хочете сказати цим людям присутнім свою думку і з цього приводу?
Ну, ми, звісно, вдячні за все. За нами так спілкуються, переживають.
We are really grateful for the attention and care that we receive from the international organizations operating in Ukraine. And we probably, because I mean, we've discussed it earlier with Mrs. Svetlana, and we agree. She mentioned that although Vinnytsia is not in the front line, there is so many needs and requests for support that UNHCR could provide. Of course, if the organization has enough resources. So any extra support would be really appreciated, because as Federico said, what we provide here is not only about NFIs, non-food items, but also about the access to employment, about the training, and looking for alternative housing solutions. And so this is really what Svetlana is one of the 100 residents of this collective center, and her husband really would appreciate, and this is what they really need. Over to you, Alicia.
Thank you. Thanks, Vladlena. If there's nothing further from your side, I think we can soon move on to closing remarks. But just double checking if there's anything else from your side that you want to add.
No, probably nothing.
Okay, well, please thank again Mrs. Svetlana on behalf of all of us. Yes, děkuju. And thank you also, Vladlena, for joining us today. I think it's very important to have the opportunity to speak directly to people that have been affected by the war. So thank you for this.
Thank you for the opportunity and have a nice day.
Thank you. So thank you very much again to our Vinnytsia colleagues and Kharkiv colleagues for their live presentations today. And as we're nearing the end of our virtual mission, I would just like to introduce Alexander Munt, who is the Principal Situation Coordinator in UNHCR Ukraine for some, I'll hand over to him now for some closing remarks.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Okay,
well,
super.
Alex.
Super. No, thanks everybody for joining us today. And I will be fairly brief because I think it's been a long tour of the country. It's quite a large place. But I thought maybe I would just take a moment or two before everybody logs off to try to pull together a little bit the pieces of what you've just seen, and talk briefly about how we're thinking about and prioritizing what we're going to do in 2024. And really, we're building this around 4 key objectives. And I think you've seen pieces of this together, but the first is really that frontline emergency life-saving humanitarian support to people trapped in the conflict on the front lines. And this is a huge part of our activities. It's assisting tens of thousands of people with emergency cash, with the basics to just quickly repair their homes, and basically to sort of sustain life in a place where it's extremely difficult. I mean, normally we're used to doing this once they're in displacement, but I think in this context, what we're really trying to do is reward the incredible resilience and courage of people who say, this is my home and I'm not going anywhere. But it's really, I think, a huge part of, our traditional humanitarian relief activities. The second objective, and really we just saw this in Vinnytsia, is really to try to find solutions and support people in protracted displacement. There's 110,000 people, more or less, in the central and western parts of the country living in collective sites, and we're now 2 years into the conflict. Many of them are far below standards. Many of them are just not dignified housing. So we're really trying to move people into sort of sustainable interim solutions where they can plug back into the social fabric of host communities, perhaps find more durable housing through things like support for rent, support to find a job, and just a little bit of support to help them recover and stand back on their own 2 feet. We also saw in Kyiv briefly a little bit of our work in durable solutions, where we're really moving towards transitional and durable housing. Our colleague was there sort of talking about the core homes and how that basically enables people to really return to their land and rebuild on their land. So it gives them an option to life in a collective site. And the interesting thing to me about those core homes was it's actually just a start. It's the basic, and they come with a set of blueprints that show families how to build out and expand the core homes in a logical and safe way. And the last thing, I mean, we're really trying to do is, this is a country that's trying to reform and do things in a big hurry. And they're creating new policies aligned with the EU accession. And really what we're trying to do is translate some of that practical experience in terms of rebuilding the social safety nets, in terms of supporting return, in terms of, creating new opportunities for social housing, for house repairs, technical guidance, and ensure that all comes together in laws and policies. what you've seen today, you've seen, I think, in different locations, a different piece of the puzzle. But what I want to reiterate is really we've designed the activities in a way that they're interdependent and they're interlinked. So in their design to really respond to the emergency needs and that shock of being displaced, of having your home attacked, of being separated from your family, of living in this environment of uncertainty, where we give different forms of assistance, but moving towards I think self-reliance, towards recovery, towards families being able to regain some sense of normalcy. So cash assistance isn't in isolation of psychosocial support. To get an apartment or rebuild your home, often you'll need legal aid to prove residency and ownership rights. So all of the pieces of our programs were actually designed towards moving towards clear protection outcomes, and actually helping families to get back on their feet and really to be sort of have agency, have a bit of self-reliance, and be able to live relatively normal lives in a situation that's, I think, far from normal. And the last slide is just a little bit a graphic illustration of what we try to achieve and how humanitarian and development activities sort of link to the policy reforms that we're hoping to see. As many of you know, the EU accession, I think, came as like a jolt of positive energy and psychological, I think, a light in a way. So people, I mean, as Dominique and Carolina said at the beginning, I think what's most important here is solidarity, and people feeling like, they're fighting for something bigger than themselves, and it involves all of us. And what we try to do with our support is actually to link national programs with humanitarian programs in a way that encourages transparency, encourages local accountability, and eventually encourages policy reform in the right direction. So, for instance, we've created a database that enables humanitarian partners, more than 106 partners, to work directly with local authorities to identify damaged houses in need of repair, and prioritize them for assistance to make sure people aren't getting the right form of assistance they need, and basically to control any potential abuse in the system. The next step is often legal aid. Do they have the documents to restore pension rights, to reestablish residency rights? The compensation program put in place by the government requires that people prove ownership, but many, many people either never had their documents or have lost them. So that legal aid is really a crucial step in the ability of people to either access support directly for humanitarians or to access the compensation from the state. And just as an example, this year, the government put in place a compensation program with backing from the World Bank, where they actually were able to distribute, I think, up to 400 million to around 25,000 people in claims. But really, they created bylaws that I think needed to be adapted and adjusted. And one of the great things about working here is it's a government that's trying to do big things in a hurry. So they put in policies very quickly to move forward, and they course correct as they go. So some of the experience of who may have been excluded or may not have been eligible then fed into policy course corrections. So let me just close. I think what we're intending to do this year is to assist about 2.6 million people, or 2.7 million. That's our target for who we're going to reach, with a budget of about $600 million. But I know many of you are from the private sector, and I really think this is an exciting moment for us, particularly in an early recovery and a solutions context, to look at what we can do together, where we can co-design programs, where we can use the expertise of the private sector to stimulate investment, to match people with jobs, to create opportunities, and really to look at those sort of shared value partnerships. When I was based in Poland at the start of the emergency, we designed all sorts of sort of unique housing arrangements with Airbnb, with Booking.com, but it was really a process of I think, co-design and innovation with the private sector. And I think that's really the opportunity we have at this moment, particularly in the West and the Central, but also in designing the emergency response activities in the East with a focus on solutions up front, and again, restoring dignity and self-reliance in the short term. So let me end here and just say a huge thank you to everybody for joining. I know it's an hour and a half out of your day, but I hope it gave you a bit of a flavor of the different parts of Ukraine and the different focuses of UNHCR and the broader humanitarian framework here. So thank you very much. And I look forward, please reach out. We look forward to hearing from you, to you visiting eventually, and to your continued support. So thank you.